in advance to you. But again, this show is a live streamed show. You can also watch this program live on all our social media platforms, on Twitter, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. Just search at SAfm Radio across all those platforms, or you can follow me directly at Oliver_speaking. Coming up on the show this evening, we're going to open up the show in conversation with KZN's newly appointed Premier Nomusa Dube-Ncube. And we're going to be speaking about the configuration of her cabinet that she had just announced 2 days ago. But I want the conversation really to focus on the program of government and how that cabinet fits into that particular program. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be speaking about the Kenyan elections, the monumental elections. I've been nail-biting stuff happening over there. I've been following those figures all day. And this morning when I woke up, William Ruto and Odinga were neck to neck in those numbers. I think they were both sitting at around 42%. And at my last check of the numbers a few minutes just before I came on air, it seemed as though Deputy President Ruto is leading with over 52%, and Odinga is trailing behind at 46%. But there's still 30% of the results that need to be counted and audited and submitted. An interesting thing about the Kenyan elections is that the media is also a counting party. That's to say that the media also count the votes to ensure at least another level of accuracy over there. That's quite interesting for me. But those numbers coming in, and we'll reflect on that as well. It's not just about the presidential race there that's important. It's also about what's happening at the level of governor. 10 governors have been announced so far, 6 of them being women. It's very significant for Kenya. It's in the first time in its history that that's happening. In fact, the most governors Kenya's had was 3 women, really, and now they're sitting with 6 women being governors. We're going to be speaking about that as well in a very short while. We're going to be speaking to Professor Iraki from the University of Nairobi, who's part of the faculty there of Business and Management. That conversation is going to come up on the other side of this. But look, you can be a part of this conversation throughout the show. The number to dial is 011 714 2006. And you can also WhatsApp us on 0614 104 107. I'm also taking your voice notes on that number, 0614 104 107. So do send through those voice notes as well. And if you'd like to, watch the show live again, it's on Twitter, it's on YouTube, and it's on Facebook. It is at SAfm Radio across all of those particular platforms, or tweet me directly at Oliver_speaking. On the other side of this, we speak to Premier Nomusa Dube-Ncube.
This week, today, Fridays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Of course, it's monumental that KZN has for its first time a woman premier. Let's not take lightly what this means for the politics of KZN. But significantly so, KZN for the first time also has a cabinet that is predominantly a majority woman. That too is significant in South Africa. Let's not take that lightly. And it's important that we speak about the significance thereof, but it's also important then that we ask, is this, and truly speaking, a change in the tide of politics in KZN, from a province that is traditionally been characterized as unwilling to change, staunch, orthodox, and perhaps deeply patriarchal as well, because it's for the longest time, it's where the heartbeat of the ANC has been. It may well not be the case anymore, but it's still a significant province in the body politic of the ANC. And so what happens in KZN is something we must take very, very serious. And the fact that it has a majority women cabinet is something of great significance. What do you make of that? Give me a call on 011 714 2006. 011 714 2006. That's the number to dial, and you can be a part of this conversation. Or you can also send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. Joining me now to have this conversation on Zoom is Premier Nomusa Dube-Ncube. Premier, thank you so much for your time this evening. Really, really do appreciate it. Again, congratulations on your appointment as Premier, and congratulations on appointing a cabinet that is predominantly and majority women. It is in South Africa that is still very much an important feature to take note of when it happens in our body politic. Premier? It seems that we may have lost Premier over there. Premier Tubengube. Let's see if we can get the Premier on a better line over there. I think our Zoom network might not be the strongest this evening once again. So we'll have that conversation as soon as we can get the Premier on the line. I can see the Premier. Premier Dubengube, if you can see me and hear me, please do wave, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Oliver, and to your viewers.
Let's talk about how you came about putting this cabinet together. Of course, we're going to have to speak about why former Premier Sihle Zikalala is a part of your cabinet, but I think the more significant part to speak about is the fact that it's a majority woman cabinet. Is this by accident?
No, it's not by accident, Oliver. It's by design. It's by conscious design. It is our understanding that women in our province and in our country really do have the capabilities of helping this nation and this province to grow. We believe that we had women that we trusted, that at this time, at this day and age, where our province is still reeling from COVID-19, is still reeling from the July unrest, as well as the devastating floods that we experienced. There's a need for us to reconstruct and be able to grow our economy, but also deal with the issues of socio-economic that are facing our people in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, high unemployment that we have, young people that are unemployed, women that are unemployed. So we felt that it's really going to be important for us that in the driving seat of some of these challenges, we would need somebody like a woman who's able to work with everybody, but who's also able to hit the ground running because of the agency.
Yeah, let's speak about what the ground running looks like. Of course, you have to still deal with recovering from the floods and assisting families over there. There is still the recovery efforts towards from COVID-19. What does it mean when you say hit the ground running? What does that look like?
Well, it means that we have to implement the programs that we have as government. Our priority is really to deal with the socio-economic, as I said, Oliver, but also a strong focus needs to be on unlocking opportunities that are available through the integrated government infrastructure development, but also targeting the radical economic transformation across all corners of our province, the rural areas, the township areas. We're saying that it's enough for us to talk. We need to do now. We've spoken enough, we've planned enough, we've strategized enough. It's about time that we put those actions into visible change in the lives of our people. So the ground is going to be measured by the number of people that are going to be able to access opportunities that we have.
Yeah.
But also as government, our procurement needs to be directed towards women, young people, and people with disabilities.
How much of that will you be able to achieve in the immediate and in the short term, given that the program of government that you're overseeing now is not a program you created, it's a program you very much inherited? Yeah, sure, you were part of the administration that did so, but it's not entirely your program. You're seeing through the vision of an administration, really, of Sihle Zikalala.
Well, I think, Oliver, it is achievable because I know some of the areas that we need to unlock. I know that we need to have government that is efficient, government that is effective, but also we need to change our service delivery model, Oliver. We hardly stress the need for us to evaluate and monitor whether what we are saying needs to happen is happening. And I think if we drill down to that, to say, if we say, this is what we want to achieve in 6 months or 3 months, is that happening or not? If it's not happening, why? Do we have resources that are enough for us to do that? I think for now, we do have resources for us to implement some of the programs. When I talk about township economy, when I talk about rural economy, we have a Department of Agriculture that's got programs that are supposed to be really directly helping our communities. We need to see if it's not reaching out to as many people as we're supposed to be, why is it that? And what is it that we need to change in terms of our delivery model? Or what is it that we need to stress in terms of what our communities expect of us?
Yeah.
So those are the things that I believe that given the space and this agency that I would like all of us and my colleagues to put, it is achievable indeed.
What then will you be changing to achieve that? And I'm talking changing from what was the style of governance from former Premier Sihle Zikalala, as well as the program there. What are you bringing in that will change that particular regime to be able to achieve exactly the things you've set out to achieve?
Well, I'm bringing in my experience, Oliver, of being able to work with a number of sectors. Right now, I have been discussing with businesses, I've been discussing with academics, I've been discussing with traditional leadership, I've been discussing with religious leaders, young people and women. We've been discussing really to say, what is it that each one of these sectors want to see? How can we support the work? Because the other thing that we always make a mistake of, Oliver, is to think that we know better as government, while we know that our people know better because they are there on the ground. They know what is it that can work. They know better what is it that can make them, to be able to be assisted. For instance, when we talk about government support, are we supporting the areas of growth? I will make an example with you that I've been having a discussion with the Unilever, who say we're discussing with them that we want them to give us opportunities so that our people can, plant some of the products that they have as spices.
Yeah.
And that will need then the government to directly support those areas that the business is saying they want to grow, instead of the government doing something else and the business pointing the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's wrap up here with your cabinet, and then I want us to speak about some of the other programs of government. It came as a surprise to many of us that now MEC Sihle Zikalala is a part of the cabinet. What were the nature of the conversations that you had with yourself, the provincial leadership, as well as the deployment committee in appointing certain members to the cabinet, and why was it that despite what Premier Sihle Zikalala said in his resignation speech, why was it then that you felt fit that he needs to be a part of this cabinet?
Well, it was important, Oliver, for continuity, but also for, implementing some of the programs that he was also part of. By the way, but also we're talking about the policies of the governing party here, where it must be all hands on the deck. We need also, we thought that it's important as well to preserve some institutional memory so that we don't start from the scratch, but we are able to say, where were we, where did we do wrong, or where did we go wrong? How do we correct the wrongs that we have seen? For instance, we need to emphasize the point of developing our infrastructure, such as roads, such as water and electricity, if we are to grow our economy. We also need to directly support the SMMEs if we are to win the battle for dealing with the unemployment and poverty in our province. So it was important that, therefore, that we are not coming in with all new team, but we bring in the mixture of those that were there and those that are coming in with the new blood and the new energy, as it were.
Yeah. If that's the case, why isn't this cabinet more reflective of young people then?
It is indeed, Oliver, reflective of young people. From the top, myself, the MEC of Economic Development, the MEC of Arts and Culture, the MEC of, in fact, all of them, by the way, MEC of Human Settlement, MEC of transport. Who are the older people? Well, I think MEC of finance will be the oldest of them all. But most of the MECs, whether you talk about transport, education, sports, arts and culture, human settlement, Dr. Matlaba, all of us actually are fairly new, are young people who are all going to be able to hit the ground running.
Yeah. Was there an attempt to keep some of the MECs that have resigned in the fold? And I know it would have been difficult, for instance, with MEC Ravi Pillay, because he didn't just resign from cabinet, he also resigned from the legislature as well. But was there any conversation with him about retaining, again, what you refer to as institutional knowledge and some of those skill sets to be able to ensure that level of continuity that you're aiming for?
Yes, we did discuss that, and he has made himself available to serve in government in other different capacities. So we are going to be seeing him contributing in government in one way or the other.
Yeah. Let's speak about MEC, about going forward. We're 18 months away from a national election here in South Africa. So the next 18 months will be critical for your government in its ability to unite KZN in so many facets, right? One, it is about placing destitute and vulnerable families into some sort of accommodation that was lost as a result of the floods. How's that program looking like? MEC? Sorry.
Put our communities in good. Oliver, it is our priority that we need to house our people in proper shelter, but also in decent shelter. It's really unacceptable that our people are still living in the conditions that they are living on. I had a discussion even today with the MEC of Human Settlement, and we had agreed with him that starting from Sunday, we need to be really talking solutions. He's meeting with his team today and tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I'm going to be receiving a report. And I had informed him that I don't want a report that's still going to be some research and trial and error, but I need a report that says, where are we moving these people from next week?
Yeah. And then today, the Hawks made arrests in connection with the 2021 July unrest. You would have seen this, of course, being covered, probably would have been briefed around it. What's your reflection on those arrests?
Well, I think we will have to, Oliver, wait for the courts to deal with this matter. Since it's already under investigation, for us, it's to really rely on what is it that the courts are going to be saying.
Do these arrests signal a step in the right direction by law enforcement to dealing with the July unrest for you?
Well, Oliver, I think we will still hear, because we don't have a report that tells us exactly how are these people linked to the July unrest and how were they identified. So honestly, I cannot say seated here that I know exactly what is it that is going on. I know that they have been charged with violence or inciting violence, but to say exactly how were they identified, where were they spotted or something, we will still need to hear from the law enforcement and the courts as to exactly where is this matter moving.
Give us a call. The number to dial is 011 714 2006. 011 714 2006. I'm also taking your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Premier, then just another element of KZN that makes its politics so unique is the close relationship that the government's always had to have with the royal family in executing the program of government. And the IFP nervously called on on your office to support the Zulu King and the royal family. That seemed a little bit unusual. But what is your plan on dealing with the tensions over there?
Well, we are hoping that the tensions within the royal family will be resolved. Our government, has been working even with the previous king. We had a very good relationship with the father, the King Zwelithini Kabheki Zulu, when he was still around. We had very good relationship with Amakhosi. And we are continuing with that relationship with the family now. And we are supporting them with, all the support that they need, be they financially or institutionally. The government is there and giving them all the support. And we are really, hopeful that the family will be able to find it amongst themselves to sit down and listen to each other and be able to resolve their differences.
And just lastly, you haven't been able to deliver a State of the Province address. That obviously was long done before you came into office, and you'll be heading into one next year. And so really, like I said earlier, you're completing off a program sort of placed there and one that you're inheriting. But what is it, when you deliver the State of the Province address next year, what is it that you'd like to report back onto the people of KZN that will signal goals, that will signal achievements that have been done, that would make it worthwhile, that they believe in your government?
Well, for me, Oliver, it would be reporting back to the communities whether we have managed, as we say, we want to increase the level of the houses that we are building. We've decreased quite significantly the number of houses that we are building as a province, and we really want to rev that up.
What's the target?
So it will be the numbers to say, look, we have been able to reach, previously yearly we used to deliver 20,000, 15,000 houses. We're down to about more or less 10,000 houses per year. And that is not really a good sign for us. But it will also be for us to count the number of businesses that we've been able to retain and retain. It will also be the number of people that would have had job opportunities, as government, that we would like to talk about in the State of the Province address. It will also be talking about how much of the young people and the township and the rural people have benefited in our procurement spend, but also who've now been able to establish their own businesses as government, being supported by us, of course. But it will also be judged by how many hectares of land we've been able to assist in plowing and with implements, mechanization, as we know that we are a rural province. Also, that speech should be able to say, are we able to get our tourism industry to be revived, to be able to be at least halfway to where it was before the lockdown? And those are some of the things for me, Oliver, that the speech would have achieved if we are able to count quantities of all these areas that I'm talking about. Of course, not limited to these areas. There will be, of course, talk about water, electricity, and other infrastructural development.
Fantastic. Premier Nomusa Dube-Ncube, thank you so much for your time. Really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Oliver, for having us. Thank you.
That is the newly appointed Premier of KZN, Premier Nomusa Dube-Ncube. On the other side of this, we take some of your calls and voice notes.
This week, today, Fridays, 6 to 7 p.m.
011-714-2006, that's the number to dial. Give us a call. Let's speak to Moses out in Bramley. Moses, good evening.
Good evening, Oliver. How are you?
I'm fantastic, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Oliver. I just want to congratulate the KwaZulu-Natal ANC for giving us a lot of women in their cabinet. But there is something that is concerning with this KwaZulu-Natal ANC, Oliver, that I'm worried about. Heading toward the elective conference in December, no wonder what type of candidate who will be contesting for presidency they will be giving us. As you reflect in 2007, these guys, they gave us a candidate who was like having some skeletons. Today, the country is in tatters because of the candidature that they've given us in 2007. No wonder, because you've got now the Taliban. You know, when you've got an ANC that is having names, the Taliban, the RET, there's a problem there. I'm still wondering what type of a guy they are going to give us to contest Ramaphosa in December. Because this is a problematic ANC, really.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, it's being invested in the ANC is an abusive thing, because it really isn't about the candidate that rises to the top in the ANC. It really is about the party, its culture, its politics, and its outlook altogether. And if you can't change the ANC, you're not going to change it with a single leader. If you can't change the ANC, then you can't change the frustrations that you have with the state, I believe. So we'll have to dig a little bit deeper than just saying, I wonder who the next candidate will be that they'll give us.
Yeah, because the speculation that Zweli Mkhize will be the guy they are bringing us to us. You still remember Jacob Zuma was given to us when he's having a lot of skeletons. He was like having the arms deals that he was dealing with, and he's still dilly-dallying about these arms deals and stuff like that. So no wonder corruption and the KwaZulu-Natal ANC, these are two things that go hand in glove. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your call. Really, really do appreciate it. That is Moses out in Bramley. Let's have a listen to some of your voice notes.
I'm telling you, Oliver, the remnants of Guptas who are in South Africa and are listening to this interview of Premier of KwaZulu-Natal are preparing to move to that province, because if they talk about radical economic transformation, they're gonna give out money without any accountability. People will be giving money to build roads, and they are not going to build those roads. I'm telling you.
Good evening, Oliver and the listeners. Umam Ngube Dube, she's speaking like a president. She's qualifying to be our president. Really, I'm sitting down here and listening to her. It is over par. In Botterville.
Good day, Oliver. My name is Dumi. I was born and bred in KZN. I would like to know how can the Premier assist me, because I've got a project that I want to do in an area of Toleni in KZN, which is tourism and nature. I would really like to meet up with her or her team so that I do the presentation, which I believe that the project, I believe that it can create a lot of opportunities and everything. Please ask her how can I get hold of her.
Good evening, Oliver, and good evening to the Premier of KZN. It's Tumisani Tate from Northern Cape. What I'm very interested is that how is it going to work, because the former Premier was the head of the province and the current Premier was reporting to the former Premier. Now the former Premier have to report to the current Premier. It's very complicated. Is it going to work or not?
So tourism is obviously a big factor for South Africans, and no less so for KZN. What will the minister do about the whole Tugela issue? So now it's been said that Tugela Falls is the tallest waterfall in the world. Others are disputing that. Can she perhaps do something to get some clarity on this, because that will be a tourism booster? Also the Sani Pass in Underberg area going towards Lesotho. Why is that so terrible? When are they going to have that fixed? And thirdly, what does she think about royal families in this country, and why is it that we should be footing the bill for the royal families when many of us don't even have them as our king or queen or whatever the case may be, especially referring to the royal family in KZN?
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen.
Still taking some of your calls this evening on 011 714 2006. Let's speak to Ivan in KZN. Ivan, good evening.
Thank you, Oliver. I tried to get on this morning as well, but quite a few times I tried to get all of this guy Stephen Crutus and then a few of your colleagues. But thank goodness I've got through now. I just wanted to touch on the premier, what she said, and what I wanted to find out. Unfortunately, she's no longer there. She's gone now. Mandela to state that we are a rainbow nation, in whatever form that we're looking at. Now, if you look at the KZN, they had the elective conference. Now, I don't see anyone in color. Not that I want people of color, but it will tell us that we are a rainbow nation. Now, the ruling party should have done that. Doesn't matter who they take. It tells one what is the agenda behind this, not getting different other people on board. Is it they can't find? Is it they don't want to? And I'll tell you now, Oliver, maybe, I don't know, maybe the majority of the South Africans will agree with me, but I think it's all about putting your hand in the cookie jar in all 9 provinces. And I'm telling you now, if we don't get our act together, and I'll tell you now that we are falling, and we are going to fall deeper into an abyss, and no one's going to take us out but the people of South Africa. And one more thing, a while back, Gwede Matasha had a media briefing quite a while back, and one of the journalists asked him this: do you think there'll be an uprising like there was in Egypt? And he said, there won't be one, never. And if you recall what Thabo Mbeki said when he gave his comments regarding the funeral with Jesse DeWater, and he said, South Africans, be careful of an uprising. I don't know if you can recall that. Yeah. And how true it was. So what I'm saying is, to the masses of the people, when it comes to 2024, you make your cross and you think with your head, not with your heart. 20 years down the road, people are still living in abject poverty. They're still living in the mud houses, still living, and I'm not far from. I go into informal settlements all day and night.
Can I ask you this, Ivan? Do you think the July unrest of last year were just a small sign of what an unrest, of what an Arab Spring type of thing for South Africa would look like?
Look, what I want to say. The unrest was unfortunate. It shouldn't have been. It caused major disaster, and people are no longer employed. People are really battling, and I'll tell you something, truth be told, they are just bluffing the people, the mass of the people with the 350 thing and all that. And then, we get other political parties, I don't want to mention names, they're coming on, we will double SASA, there'll be free education, But what people don't understand is, how can you do this when government right now is battling financially, our treasury is buggered, everything, you don't have to blame, the name blame is not the way to go now. What I'm saying is, Oliver, forget the past. Let's move on. Let's try and rebuild.
Okay.
And the other thing is, the Zondo Commission, we have gone over R1 billion. Listen, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, look, the former president...
Ivan, I'm going to have to stop you there. Thank you so much for that. That's about your third issue already this evening. Really do appreciate your call. That's Ivan out in KZN. Let's speak to Silo out in Mokopane. Silo, good evening. Silo? Oh, seems like we don't have Silo. Let's try and see if we can get Silo back on a little bit of a better line over there, out in Mokopane. You can still give us a call on 011 714 2006. That's the number to dial. 011 714 2006. I'm also taking your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Seems like we do have Silo now. Silo in Mokopane, good evening.
Thanks, Oliver. Thanks for taking my call. But you know, I get amazed every time when I hear people quoting some famous words like the Rainbow Nation, which was just a fallacy, a concept that did not materialize, Oliver. And it's so sad. And then we cannot use the Rainbow Nation in this country whereby there's none. And on the issue of this KwaZulu-Natal,
very
and I think we should call it, that was a pure corruption that was happening in that province, because people even now, Oliver, they are still they don't have jobs, they don't have the country, there's no work for them, but there's no such thing that happened there. So to call certain things with these fancy names and so forth, it's really not helping us as a nation. We need to call what that happened there as a pure corruption, where people just get in people's shop, vandalize, steal, and so forth. It cannot be that, in my view anyway, that it is because people do not have work and you understand, they're poor and so forth. If we can ask that question now, I will respond by saying, do they have job now in KwaZulu-Natal? And then why we don't have that corruption that happened there now?
Thank you so much for your call, Silo and Mokopane. Really do appreciate it. 011 714 2006. Give us a call. Kenya's election, nail-biting stuff. About 71% of the vote has been counted and submitted. And the results reflect that William Ruto's leading by 52.7%. While Raila Odinga is at 46.7%. This morning when I checked, they were neck and neck, I think, at 42% each. And, you know, the results are still trickling in and will over the course of the weekend. But, you know, this, I think, the separation is starting to clear up, and it's pointing towards a William Ruto victory. Am I reading this correct, Professor Iraqi? Prof, if you could just unmute yourself this evening, we'd love to be able to hear you. It seems you might be muted. Professor Iraqi is from the University of Nairobi and joins us all the way from Kenya this evening. Professor Iraqi, let's see if we can get you on an unmuted line over there so that we're able to hear you much, 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 much clearer. In addition to the presidential election, there's also governors who were in the race. And 10 governors have been announced thus far, 6 of them being women. And this is very, very significant. Hasn't happened to this level in the history of Kenya. And to be quite honest, it is a victory, really, not just for Kenya, but for Africa, that this many women governors were able to rise to the top. The most they've ever had before in Kenya were 3. Now we're talking about 6 of the 10 having been announced being women. And this is one indicative of the change in the culture of politics in Kenya. It's a politics that have become younger. It's a politics that have become a lot more outspoken. But it's also a politics that's become a lot more active. The voter turnout is also something that has surprised me in the Kenyan election. And it's something hopefully that we'll also be able to unpack in this conversation as soon as we can get Professor Iraqi on an unmuted line. It seems we may be struggling to have that happen. Let's take a quick break. On the other side of this, we continue the conversation.
This week, today on SAfm. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAfm.
Bonding session. The stingy people in your life don't like sharing food, or perhaps you are the stingy one.
A neighbor of mine is nokupeka iskopo every Sunday. Since akakazi asipheka yena, he will tell you, I have to share with my family. When he comes to your house, he even wants a takeaway. One day he came at the wrong side. Wathi nayefika nje at amanzi. Athi nilokusiyolo siyaxoxa ngithi makhe, hey, amanzi ayafuneka lapha. Wagcina yekile lento yakhe. Ngiloku at amanzi. Manje sharp, I've sorted him out.
How to deal with the pressure from family members and sometimes friends.
In my case, I decided to divorce because I was not ready to have a child. I'm still not ready even now. So it's a decision that one needs to take. That is either you are in or out, especially if the partner as well is also taking that pressure.
What constitutes flirting? When is it flirting? Does that then amount to cheating?
Flirting is cheating. Don't try to put stages. When you are in this stage, you are this. When you are in this stage, you are that. Flirting is cheating.
This is Aldrin Sampier on Beyond the Headline. This week, today, Fridays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on This Week Today. My name is Oliver Dickson, and we're talking about the Kenyan elections right now. Nail-biting stuff. 71% of the vote having been counted, and it seems like Deputy President at the moment, William Ruto, is leading over there with 52.7% of the vote. Professor Iraqi from the University of Nairobi joins us. Professor Iraqi, thank you so much for this for joining us this evening. Is it clear to say that the runaway between Odinga and Ruto is starting to show, and that it's comfortably with Ruto leading, that will be the next president of Kenya?
According to the latest media reports and even the counting from Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission, it seems that the results are too close to call. We can't say who is going to win now. So the counting is continuing.
Yeah.
So 70% is not good enough. We are waiting for 100% so that we can say who is exact winner. For now, we can't tell.
Yeah. This close result, was it to be expected?
The opinion polls were showing a very wide margin, but it appears that when voting came, a lot of people never voted. We have a vote turnout of 65%. Last time it was about 86% in 2013. So the fact that a lot of people did not go to vote probably affected the opinion polls. So this was not expected. It was expected on the ground, but the media did not reflect that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to me that the media is part of the counting ecosystem in the Kenyan elections. Does that inspire confidence?
Yes, that is one of the things that is very interesting in the counting today, because the Electoral Commission gave all the data to the media houses, about 46,000 pages of results. So they are trying to tally them and get the winner, which is very tedious. And I think that is one very good evidence of transparency in our voting system. We give you the data, tally them, but the ultimate responsibility of announcing the winner lies with the commission. And that's what everybody is waiting for.
Yeah. And let's speak about, let's move away from the presidential race for a moment. 10 governors have been announced having won their respective races. Interesting result over there, because a lot more women having emerged there than have expected and previously in the past elections. Was this to be expected, and is this an indication of a change in the attitude of Kenyan voters?
If you look at the Kenyan political history for the last 10, 20 years, a lot of emphasis have been put on empowering women, and they have taken that charge. So it is not surprising that a lot of women are becoming governors. A lot of them will be becoming MPs, members of County Assembly. So Kenyans have taken women empowerment very, very seriously. It is even the constitution. And we are very happy about it because a balanced parliament, a balanced Senate with more women is good for national politics so that every gender is represented. So we are very happy about that.
Is there you mentioned the drop in vote turnout all the way from the mid-80s to about 65%, right? And by any standard, 65% is a good turnout. If you compare it with emerging economies, and if you compare it across the continent, it's quite a vibrant democracy that Kenya has going for itself. But why do you think there has been a drop in voter turnout?
I think the reason is that there wasn't a big issue this time. If you look at 2002, there was a very big issue when the old Independence Party was leaving power. So there was a very big issue about change of guard. This time, there isn't anything very big. If you look at Ruto, he has been there. If you look at Raila, he has been there. So nothing very spectacular, the same old faces. Probably that is the reason why people did not bother to go and vote. There's nothing exciting, nothing very interesting.
It's interesting that you point that out, right? Because they're not the only candidates vying for the presidential, race. There were other candidates, but collectively, weren't able to gather at least 1% of the vote. And George Wajakoya is one of them. Why is it that they did so poorly, George and David in particular?
I guess one reason that they are not well known like Ruto or Raila. Raila has been there for more than maybe 30 years. Ruto has been there for more than 20 years. But Wajakoya is new. Mwaure is new. So they are not very well known like the other two. That's probably why they are not getting traction. And I also suspect they don't have the money to campaign and money to meet the voters and popularize themselves. That's probably the other reason.
How big were the campaigns this time around comparatively to the previous election cycle? Well, if you compare it to 2 election cycles ago, when Uhuru Kenyatta was campaigning and trying to become president then.
The campaign this time was very low key. I don't remember people getting freebies like cabs, like other free things. There wasn't as much noise. I didn't see a lot of adverts. So this time the campaign was low key, and there's a good reason. The economy is very bad. If you look at the inflation because of war in Ukraine, if you look at the inflation because of COVID, people don't have the money. So even the politicians don't have the money to campaign. And that's probably one reason why it was low key, in addition to having no big issue that is driving the voters to vote.
Well, it intrigues me that you say that there's no big issue. When there's a global rise in cost of living, for instance, that makes itself a national issue wherever elections are taking place across the world right now, and Kenya's no stranger to this as well, because the rise in cost of living in Kenya squeezes the middle class, and really has proven to push a lot of people into poverty again. I would have expected that to be a national big issue that will determine what the campaigns of the candidates look like and where the hearts and the minds of the voters are.
It's a very big issue. For the first time in Kenyan politics, everything is about economics. But remember, in the past, other more emotional issues have been there. For example, ethnicity, tribalism. But this time, it was about economics, which is more general, which is more neutral, and not very emotional. So I don't say that economics is a big issue, but it's not as emotional as other issues have been in the past. And that's probably why people are not very excited like in the past. Remember, the voters and the politicians are all suffering economically. That probably equates us all.
So are you saying that Kenyan voters for the first time were not voting along tribal lines, were not voting along ethnic lines, and have for the first time voted on the issues?
They are voting on the issues, particularly economics, but that does not mean there's no ethnicity, there's no tribalism, only that it's now muted compared with the past.
Yeah. We should be expecting a winner to be announced by latest Sunday. And by Monday, those results would have been audited. we will then know who the next president is. But what should be the program of government in the first 100 days of whoever wins this election?
If you listen to the campaign by the two leading contenders, Ruto and Raila, they had a lot of promises, a lot of political promises, a lot of economic promises, how they are going to reduce the cost of living, how they are going to make sure that there are jobs for everybody. So the first 100 days probably will not be as dramatic as we think, because some realities have to be faced by the winner. You have to think about the high cost of living. You have to think about joblessness. And those are not problems you can solve in the first 100 days. So what I suspect in the first 100 days, it will be settling down. And of course, comparing the reality from the promises. So the first 100 days, I don't expect anything very dramatic. I expect settling down and coming to terms with the reality.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Prof. Araki. Really, really do appreciate it. That is Prof. Araki from the University of Nairobi. It seems as though, and with 72% of the vote being in right now, that William Ruto, Deputy President William Ruto, seems to be leading at 52.7%. It seems that his Hustler Nation narrative may just be what has pushed him over the edge. Of course, this is a majority. It is a constituency-based democracy that Kenya has, and it really is it's a direct appointment. It means it's about 50%. So whoever's first over the line with all the votes having counted will be the winner of the election over there. Should it not be the case, they will head off to a runoff. Should there be no clear majority winner, they'll be heading off to a runoff, which has to happen before the 8th of September, which is in less than a month, actually. And that means more campaigning, but no money for campaigning means that they'll have to find innovative ways of getting their messages across. That is Prof. Araki from the University of Nairobi, who joined us this evening for that conversation. If you are in Kenya, congratulations on a successful election, an election that wasn't defined by violence. Of course, claims of rigging will always be there in any country across the continent. That is a part of the identity of African elections. But it seems to be that this was an elections free and fair for the most part. Of course, we still wait on the Electoral Commission to be able to give a report to that effect. But congratulations to the people of Kenya, and congratulations to the candidates that have contested over there. It has just reached 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for indulging us and being in our company for the last hour. I'll be with you next week. Right now, it's time for your news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAfm News.
Stories making news this hour. 2 more arrests in the Collins Chabane municipality mayor murder and